Thank you. It's a really good question. I think interestingly, at the time, during captivity, the passing of time was really important. You know, initially, I think all of us, when we were actually kidnapped, we had our wristwatches taken away. Obviously, we didn't have mobile phones or smartphones in those days, so that was it. One was suddenly, and also usually plunged underground into the darkness, so you had no real idea whether it was day or night, or the passing of time, and that was very troubling, particularly for me. I was, I think, 2 or 3 months in solitary before meeting with Brian, and so it was really important. I remember every day they took us to the bathroom. I'd scratch a thing on the wall, a bit like Papillon, just to keep a sense of the days, and that was somehow trying to keep in touch still with the real world that I'd been snatched away from. But that was difficult, because over time, although once I was with somebody else, Brian, for the next 4 years, and finally with others, but we could keep a sense of when things were going, and that meant we could keep in touch, with Christmas and New Year and whatever, but also particularly family and girlfriends' birthdays and whatever, and keep a sense of the world outside that we wanted to get back to. So that was keeping track of time in that regard was important. But there was also things that you would, because life was an extraordinary mix, as I think Johnny portrays it well in the film, was an extraordinary mix of utter tedium, nothing happening. Obviously, it's difficult to do in the movie because the movie's an hour and a half. We're talking about 4 or 5 years of nothing happening for days, weeks, months, and then suddenly everything goes completely bazonkas when the guards come in and we're in one of those horrible moves. So it was a very strange mix of that. So there's an awful lot of time when you just realise nothing's happening. And when nothing's happening, as we all know, and it's boring, time takes forever. A day lasts a long time. I mean, you might be thinking, God, when's he going to finish now? Time drags. And then you would sometimes think, God, my life is dragging away. And then you'd wake up one day and think, God almighty, that's another 2 or 3 months of my life that's just evaporated, empty. I've done nothing with it. Nothing's happened. I've just been lying on this god-awful little mattress with Brian on the other side. We haven't been able to do anything, just chatted. Our life is literally evaporating in this thing. And that did make me think, I think perhaps all of us, but certainly I was thinking, I've got to try and make up for that when I get out, if I get out, and when I get out. And to be honest, I think some of the things I have made up for, I've been a very fortunate person in terms of overcoming those years earlier, and had a busy life as a journalist. I've got a lovely 18-year-old child, I've still got lots of lovely friends. But I still think actually that I'm concerned that I'm just, still sort of wasting time. I'm nearly 67, and perhaps I should have done a lot more with the opportunities I had, the sort of public persona or whatever I had, and the chance to write and do things, or just privately could have done more. So I'm saying, Johnny and I were talking about it when we had something to eat a little while ago, and sort of the sort of imposter syndrome about what am I doing up here? I haven't done anything, and also just thinking I wish I'd done a bit more. So yes, on one level I can recognise that I've been very fortunate to have had a bizarre, horrible experience that was actually incredibly enriching. Personally, particularly having been able to share it with Keenan, but also to share it with a couple of Americans in Cherry Way who don't sort of feature in the film, but also lots of other people who've come probably after that experience, and people like Jill Morell who shared it on the outside, in a sense, with me too. So it sort of was lost time while I was living it, but looking back on it, I think it was, it was time that was sort of creating something else, which still maintains. And when Johnny was talking about helping, in a way, Brian and I to see our experience, which he describes as a biblical story in a way, and putting it into 3 acts or whatever, it was a big help, because it was very weird coming home and being insanely famous, being able to walk anywhere. Everybody, not that it was a problem, everybody would just know who I was, because I was been everywhere, and particularly after just coming home. And but it was very odd, because I knew I'd just been sitting on my bum for 5 years, I hadn't done anything. And then talking to Keenan, actually, he just said, look, it's the thing is, we've come out of some extraordinary place, which it's very hard to imagine, and it was, a long way from home, and it was with desperate, dangerous people holding us, and it was a long time. And we are just very ordinary men, very ordinary people, so people can look at us and think, well, that John or that Brian, that could be my brother, my son, my cousin, my mate next door, my school chum. And that's what we sort of stood for. And I think that, and that Johnny, was talking about it with Johnny was a really important way of coming to terms with the fact that we still are, every man in many respects, and went through an extraordinary ordeal. But now I do think that in many ways, although it was horrible, and my mum died while I was away, and all that stuff, it was an experience that I still am sort of glad I had, because it's changed me and changed the way I see the world, thinking of Lebanon, etc. But also, has given me insights and stuff, let alone friendships with so many people, and Johnny and particularly Keenan, that have sustained me and that still do. Sorry, it's a very long-winded answer. About time. I've got another 5 minutes if you like. No, sorry.